کنفرانس درباره قتل عام زندانیان سیاسی و نسل کشی مجاهدین در سال ۶۷ با حضور کارشناسان، گزارشگران و حقوقدانان برجسته بین المللی در پی انتشار گزارش تاریخی جاوید رحمان. ۳ شهریور ۱۴۰۳ 24 اوت 2024.
سخنرانی‌های پروفسور استیون شنیبام، مدیر بخش قوانین بین المللی در دانشکده مطالعات پیشرفته بین المللی در دانشگاه جانز هاپکینز. ژیل پاروئل، وکیل در دادگاه کیفری بین المللی در مورد رواندا و رئیس پیشین کانون وکلای استان والدواز فرانسه، و شبنم مددزاده. پروفسور استیون شنیبام: در چرخشی که واژه مبتذل برای توصیف آن کافی نیست، رژیم چیزی را که محاکمه غیابی مینامد آغاز کرده است. این رژیم دائما به سازمان مجاهدین با الفاظی مثل گروهک و منافق توهین می کند. اگر رژیم می گوید سازمان مجاهدین تا این حد بی اهمیت است، چه چیزی این وسواس بی پایان رژیم نسبت به آنها را توجیه می کند؟ رژیم به شدت و به دلایل کافی از مقاومت ایران وحشت دارد و از هیچ چیزی برای نابودی آنچه بیشتر از همه از آن می‌ترسد، یعنی اپوزیسیون دموکراتیک که به مردم ایران امید به آزادی از سرکوبگران نشان می‌دهد، دست نخواهد کشید. یک احتمال که نباید دست کم گرفته شود این است که این نمایش جعلی حقوقی برای پنهان کردن یک کارزار جدید تروریسم علیه مجاهدین و دیگر مخالفان رژیم در خارج از کشور طراحی شده است.
Thank you, Mrs. Rajavi, for the invitation to be here today. I come to this conference confident that our exploration of international law principles will actually make a difference in promoting the MUK's ability to present its case for justice in the court of public opinion. Professor Rehman's courageous report has irrevocably revealed the atrocity crimes committed by the regime 36 and more years ago. The vileness thus exposed, it is up to the international community, guided by lawyers, to confirm its resolve to isolate and to sanction the regime, to treat it as a repeat offender against international law and human rights, and to identify with the cause of the brave Iranians seeking to restore decency to their land. Today, however, my focus is not 1988, but 2024. In a twist that the word perverse is inadequate to describe, the regime has begun what it is calling a trial in absentia of 104 leaders and supporters of the MEK. That is what I want to talk about today. Some of them are in this room right now. There is something about the regime's attitude toward the PMOI that I have always found fascinating. It constantly insults the organization as virtually without support in Iran, using derogatory words like grouplet and hypocrites, as if it were a minor annoyance rather than a threat to the regime's very survival. But if the MEK is so insignificant, so isolated and so marginalized, what accounts for the regime's endless obsession with it? Why the murders at Camps Ashraf and Liberty? Why the unceasing propaganda campaign? Why the attempt to bomb the NCRI rally, a rally that I attended here in Paris in 2018? And why this new crusade, this show trial whose foreordained outcome no one outside of Iran, and probably no one inside it either, is going to credit. The answer to those questions is, I think, self-evident. The regime is deathly afraid of the Iranian resistance, and with good reason. It will stop at nothing to destroy what it most fears: democratic opposition that offers the Iranian people hope for freedom from their oppressors. So let's look at these proceedings. They began in Tehran last December with the indictment of over 100 individuals and the MEK itself. They are charged with a list of offenses, of which the centerpiece is terrorism, and insurrection, or with the mullah's characteristic pseudo-religious overlay, waging war on God. In making these accusations, the regime has the audacity to rely on treaties to which it is not a party, and in some cases, treaties that do not even exist. And the waging war charge, obviously, has no international counterpart. The presiding judge in Tehran has repeatedly invoked Article 3 of the Terrorism Convention, as he says. He cites it as the source of the duty of states hosting the accused to try them in their own countries or to extradite them, or as international lawyers like to use the Latin expression, aut dedere, aut judicare. But the problem, of course, is that there is no such convention and no such obligation. Since the regime came to power in 1979, of the 15 or more treaties and protocols relating to terrorism opened for signature, Iran has signed one, relating, as it happens, to organized crime, and has not ratified even that. Yet the inconvenience of relying on non-existent treaty provisions has hardly deterred the mullah's judicial officer from pronouncing a verdict before a single word of testimony was heard or a single piece of evidence offered. This is not surprising. Under the Iranian constitution, judges lack the discretion to disobey or even to question fatwas or orders issued by religious leaders. And the ultimate authority, in this case, has already pronounced the verdict. Here is what Ayatollah Khomeini had to say when he ordered the massacre of MEK adherents in 1988. You've heard this line quoted already today. As the treacherous monafekin, the insulting term, do not believe in Islam, and as they are waging war on God, and in light of their cowardly blows to the Islamic Revolution since its inception, it is decreed that those who remain steadfast in their support for the Mujahideen are condemned to execution. Thus, the trial judge regularly refers to the defendants before him, the defendants on trial for terrorism, as terrorists. The crime of waging war on God, as we all know, muharabeh, is punishable by death. And just as the Ayatollah did then, the judge in Tehran has done now. He has declared the outcome of the trial before the trial begins. All members of or supporters of the MEK are by decree guilty. There is no need to determine the facts. There is no need to consider whether a law designed for no other objective than keeping the regime in power is acceptable under contemporary human rights standards. When the judge repeatedly invites the defendants to come to appear in court in Tehran, he is effectively asking them to commit suicide. So what is the point here? Why this sham exercise? What audience is expected to fall for these lies? The regime lays accusations under Iranian law against individuals who have not set foot on Iranian soil in more than 30 years. There is absolutely no reason for anyone to accept the word of the leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world today in relation to this travesty. Now, it seems clear that the mullahs intend to demand that the countries in which the defendants are living, primarily France and Albania, extradite them. Of course, that must never happen. Any red notice requested by Iran should be rejected at the outset by Interpol, and if issued, should be ignored by any country to which it is presented. This is hardly the first time that Iran has attempted to abuse the good offices of Interpol. That agency's constitution at Article 3 expressly prohibits assisting in the apprehension of a government's political opponents. End of story. There may, of course, be other explanations. One possibility, not to be taken lightly, is that the fake legal drapery is designed to camouflage a new campaign of terrorism against the MEK and other regime opponents abroad. So here is where we international lawyers come in. Our role, our duty, is now to ensure that the regime's gambit does not work. No government no rational person should take seriously for a moment the notion that somehow the MEK is responsible for terrorism against the terrorist regime in Tehran. Not only must the events of 1988 not be forgotten, but what the regime is attempting to do right now must also be in the public eye. We, from countries where the rule of law matters, have the obligation now to defend the truth in the face of lies and distortions. That is the challenge that I want to lay before this distinguished audience today. And I don't think we can shrink from it. Given the quality of the presentations that we have heard in this room today, I dare say that we will resolutely rise to the occasion. Thank you.